So hello folks, I hope everybody had a good day again today wherever you may be in the world. So we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into the Ukraine-Russian war here and just a lot of other things going on in the world and then some brief stuff about the economy, etc. So let's dive into it. Mortgages taken out in 2020 to 2021 will increase between 30 to 45% by 2025 in Canada. A median monthly payment of $1,390 now will be paying $1,800 by 2025. And, I've said this before, if you bought a home within the last 2 years, that was a big, big mistake. And I wouldn't have bought that home, unless you could pay for a good chunk of that straight up, or you could pay for that house in full, which the reality is most people can't unless you come from a very wealthy family to do so. So, that was definitely a bad mistake, I think, for a lot of people, and I know people out there that bought homes within the last couple of years. So, yeah. COVID lockdowns continue in China, which is affecting supply chains, cargo stuck at ports. So, yeah, that's really nothing new. That's been all over the news, but I still can't figure out what China's whole motive is behind these lockdowns again. I mean, they're just hurting their own economy right now, too. And from what I know is like, it's not outrageous the number of cases and the number of deaths that are happening from COVID now. Maybe they're trying to use this to some degree to have leverage over the West and damage the West a bit. And then, they just walk down for a bit to do damage to the West and they'll open back up. Like, I just can't really figure it out. It seems a little weird to me. About 2% of global trade is stuck at a port in Germany in the North Sea. So, I mean, that's a significant amount. Like, it's not huge, but that basically just shows you that cargo is getting stuck in other places in the world besides China. Russia's U.S. Ambassador Antonov says U.S.-Russia relations have reached a critical point. Bilateral talk is in the bedrock. I mean, what else is new? There's just back and forth rhetoric there, and diplomacy is really down the tubes. Ukrainian forces are claiming they are out of ammo as the war rages on. So, I mean, that clearly shows that, yet again, Ukraine is losing this war. But with the recent Lend-Lease Act, which is basically a big blank check to Ukraine on behalf of the United States and the U.S. taxpayer, which I mentioned in a prior video before, they'll probably be able to, keep getting ammo and weapons and military equipment just because of that. So, I mean, it means something for now and it puts them in a tight spot, but I'm sure they'll get more ammo and weapons because of that act. China has called for full information about U.S. biolabs in Ukraine. I mean, that's quite interesting that the U.S. has the biolabs in Ukraine, but I mean, it's a little hypocritical of China because the cerveza sickness, which is a term I've heard, it's not mine, for you-know-what, that somebody I heard came up with, that came out of a biolab in Wuhan. And China has definitely not released the information about that to the United States or the rest of the world. So a little hypocritical there of China. Russia condemns Israel's attack on Damascus airport. So Damascus is pretty sure it's the capital of Syria. And Syria is allies with Russia. So that makes a lot of sense why they would condemn Israel for that. And it just reassures Russia's alliance with Syria to us as well. This is quite interesting. Iran and Venezuela are signing a major deal. It's a 20-year cooperation deal in agriculture, technology, oil, transportation, communications, etc. And Venezuela has the most oil deposits in the world. I mean, this is interesting because Iran is also an ally, as I said, of Russia, and Venezuela is an ally of Russia as well. So maybe this is just the beginning of these countries, forming their own pacts and their own trade deals more. And, basically there's been another Iron Curtain that's going up on, on Russia especially, and just other countries are eventually going to join that Iron Curtain, I believe, too, down the road. So it makes a lot of sense for them to team up with one another. Now, going over to the markets here, yeah, the NASDAQ was down almost 5% in one day, which is insane. And within the last couple of days, it's been an absolute bloodbath in the crypto markets and Bitcoin, especially. And that bubble is really starting to burst. And the S&P 500 is now in bear market territory. So it's pretty official to say that the stock market is in bear market territory. And I've been preaching this even before COVID for people that knew me, and even 2 years ago when, the pandemic first started, that this was going to get really bad, really, really bad. And I still think we're on the brink of another Great Depression or something close to it, or some kind of hyperinflation event. Like I do truly believe that it's gonna be really bad, and possibly worse than the Great Depression of the 1930s. Um, Largest Scander missiles have been launched from Russia. These are capable of being nuclear tipped if needed to. So they're starting to use these missiles more, Russia, and that's pretty scary that they could be tipped with nukes or used as a nuclear weapon as well. Very, very concerning that they're starting to put these weapons into action more, or these missiles. Nuclear weapons are at risk of being used more than ever, even more so than at the height of the Cold War, says the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. They are a leading nuclear weapons watchdog. So, yep, and pretty much like if you watch Russian state media, it's hard to get a stream for it. I've seen clips from other content creators that have been able to post it. I think you have to have a certain VPN, or maybe I just don't know the website to view it, but pretty much it's like on a weekly basis. Every week they're threatening to nuke a new country. One week it's, they want to nuke the United Kingdom off the map. Next week they want to nuke Poland off the map. Next week after that they are threatening to nuke the United States off the map. It just keeps going on and on. So pretty crazy. I mean, you haven't heard too much nuking rhetoric from the West yet and United States, but I'm sure that that's going to build up in the future to come. Chinese President Xi Jinping has signed a decree that enters into force immediately and provides a legal basis for special military operations of the Chinese armed forces abroad. These military operations do not fall within the traditional concept of war, according to Beijing. We will fight at all costs to preserve Taiwan as being part of China. China will not hesitate to start a war. That's a direct quote from the Chinese government. And it's pretty interesting how they're using the term special military operations. That's exactly what Russia just called this invasion of Ukraine, a special military operation. So, they're using something out of Russia's playbook there, and it's only a matter of time before they make a move. And personally, we're going to see how things are going to go, but I would not be surprised if China makes a move on Taiwan before the end of the year. Okay, let me just give me a sec here. This is interesting too. Israel has urged all citizens to evacuate all of Turkey immediately, citing an Iranian revenge plot. Israel Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, or however you say his name, paid a surprise visit to the Emirates, the United Arab Emirates. That's what it is. Both agreed to host Israeli military infrastructure as a step towards the ongoing tensions between Tel Aviv and Tehran that are set on a potentially irreversible path to conflict in the region. I mean, that right there just really shows Israel's alliance to the UAE there, and just with the United States and everything. And as I said before, if conflict breaks out of the Middle East, if you think the price of oil and everything is high right now, that would absolutely skyrocket it, and there would be a very quicker crash immediately. And the interesting thing about Israel is they're actually one of the biggest producers in the entire world of high-tech weapons and military weapons. So that's a big reason why the United States wants Israel as an ally, just for that simple fact as well, and why other countries want them as an ally too. I mean, I only know so much about the whole Middle Eastern theater, but to put it that way, yeah, it's not looking good there, and it looks like another war is going to break out there as well. Russia's foreign minister Lavrov is planning a visit to Iran, so that just really shows us, or reassures us of Russia's and Iran's alliance to one another once again. This is kind of off topic, but to do with food stuff. Arizona experiencing a raging wildfire, and New Mexico recently had one too. I mean, like Lake Mead and the Hoover Dam are drying up like crazy, and a lot of the food in the Southwest United States, gets shipped out to here to us in Canada, and we're pretty reliant on that food source. And same with the rest of the United States as well. Sorry. So if I were you guys, stock up on some extra food once again, put some extra food in the freezer, learn how to grow some of your own food, even maybe raise some of your own chickens if you can. It's just a smart thing to do because it is not looking good with the potential food shortages that are going to come. Okay, this is interesting. Pope Francis declares that World War III has started. He says this because of the evidence of intertwined elements at work in the Russia-Ukraine crisis. I mean, didn't really need the Pope to tell me that, but I mean, that's going to wake a lot of people up now that a figure like the Pope is saying that basically this is the beginning of World War III. I mean, I could have told you that as well, and I've kind of hinted at that as well. And I mean, all you have to do is really pay even a little bit of attention to what's going on, and you'll realize that as well. But that's just interesting that a figure like the Pope has come out and said that. Now, this is very interesting as well. France has entered into a wartime economy, and we will find ourselves in for a long time, says President Emmanuel Macron at the opening of the Euro Statutory Arms Expo in Paris. So it goes to show you that, yeah, I think we're definitely heading towards a more domestic wartime economy everywhere, like even here in Canada, United States, and Europe. And, we're going to go through a lot of hurt, but in the long run, this can actually benefit us because, we might start producing more for ourselves again, and hopefully some of this industry will come back to the West more. And, there's going to be a lot of pain and a lot of hurt before things get better, but in the longer run, maybe 5 to 10 years from now, we could benefit a lot from a wartime economy and producing domestically again. And just one last point here. I mean, there's a lot of other points, but this is quite a rap sheet already. Russia is going to be deploying their military to Nicaragua for humanitarian operations. So now the Russians are moving in another place into the Western Hemisphere again. I mean, Nicaragua's, Central America. It's close to Mexico there. I'm pretty sure it might even border Mexico. Correct me if I'm wrong, but now they're going to be moving military, closer to us here in North America, with, the United States and Canada. And that's just a real play on words and just a cover up for humanitarian operations. I mean, they're going to put equipment in there. They might even put nuclear weapons in there. And, consider this. They put nuclear weapons in there and military equipment. They put it in Venezuela, nuclear weapons and military equipment. And then what happens if they even get some of that stuff into Cuba? And then they've got 3 different locations they can strike from, basically in the Western Hemisphere on United States or even us here in Canada. But United States is more likely. I mean, that would put United States in a big, big pickle in a very uncomfortable situation. I mean, I don't even want to imagine that, but that's just the way I see it. It's been a long day here. I worked today, just poured myself a beer, take a swig. I know I stumbled a little bit, but I haven't done a video like this or this long in a long time, folks. So I hope this was informative, and I hope you enjoyed it. And sorry if I stumbled a bit. Peace.